the 1922 fire that happened in town. Anyone know about that fire? It's one I've heard about a bunch, but I didn't know where it was located, didn't know much about it. So it happened about where the Valberg building is now, the 2-story brick building, the one across from Not So Boring Bar. It was basically in that area. And I did a ton of research on this one. This one's really hard because every article I read gave conflicting information. It was either 4 buildings that burned, 7 buildings that burned, one even said 8 buildings that burned. And it was either $10,000, $12,000, or $15,000 worth of damage. And I understand that number being different, but they also got the guy's name wrong who owned the main building. It was S.E. Waller. Sometimes he's referred to as Ed Waller, F.M. Waller. And to try to get all the information I could, I even went to the Gresham Library and looked up articles on microfiche for the first time, which is pretty cool. Made me feel like a character from the 80s just running that machine. It's not as it's not as easy as Googling it, but it felt cool. So.
Did you get a headache?
No.
Then you weren't doing it very long.
They were actually surprised at how quickly I found it. So I knew my date, so I got right there. That happened April 13th, 1922, about 95 years ago. And the main fire started in the S.E. Waller building, which I think this is the reason why they think of so many buildings, because there's so many businesses in one. In the S.E. Waller building, there was a confectionery, a pool hall, a theater, and a barber shop. So Boring had a theater, but they got the license the previous month and retrofitted into a building that was already there, and it lasted less than 2 months before it burned down. So it did have a theater, but not for very long. It happened about 9:30. Everyone was up there watching movies, you know, a new thing, so it's pretty popular. They said there were about 50 people watching the movie. When the guy who ran the confectionery noticed what he described as a queer light in the corner, and that ended up being a flame. One article said firecrackers, but there's no other mention that where it says that anyone heard any loud noises or anything, so I don't think it was firecrackers. He said it was probably electrical wire or they kept a light in that corner, and that's probably what caused it. So he let everyone know, and everyone went outside and just kind of stood there for a while not knowing what to do. You know, we didn't have a fire district at that time out here, no fire engine. You know, now we'd all just stand out there on our cell phones and call these guys to come help us, but they didn't have as many options. A couple smart people ran a line from the train depot to try to get water there, but the water is pretty scarce, didn't run very well, so it wasn't doing very good. Another guy went to the Metzger garage, and that's the cool thing about this, is you keep hearing, when you start researching this, you hear like different businesses you never knew. Like I never heard of Metzger garage, I never heard about the theater. So they went over there and found a chemical fire extinguisher and tried to use that, and that was actually working really well on fire, but it was a small one, and then it ran out. And then a southern wind came through and really fanned the flame, and took that building, just went right up, and then moved to the other buildings. And then someone did contact the Gresham Fire Department, and they tried to come out and do it, but they couldn't get their engine out here because of the poor road conditions. You know, the roads were, you know, we have bad potholes, but apparently the roads were a lot worse back then in Boring. So, but they came out with either 3 or 5 vehicles, cars, depending on what article you read, and they did a bucket brigade, which worked pretty good. We lost those 4 to 8 main buildings, but the houses next to them were saved. Including a fact that I liked is they said that the flames were maybe going to go across the street to where the post office is. And they mentioned that the postmaster lived next door, William Morin. And if you talk to me about Boring history for any amount of time, you're going to hear me talk about William Morin. He's my favorite guy to research. He was an odd fellow, postmaster, and nobody else really focused on him, so that's who I like. But I never knew where he lived. So reading this article, now I know he was right next to the post office he ran. I don't know if that house there is his house, because I don't know anything about architecture. I can't look at that and go, oh, that house was built in the 20s or 1913. But that's probably what I'll be researching next, trying to figure out how old that house is. The one that's used for the Road to Damascus Church now. That's pretty much all that happened with the fire. They did have the movie the next week at the Oddfellows Lounge, which I liked the Oddfellows. And the Oddfellows had a basket sale to raise money for the kids' basketball uniforms, because they somehow were burned in that building. And so they were helping out. So that's it on Born Fire. But I love doing these speeches that you guys have me do this, because it focuses my research. Because normally I just research and just grab information, and this forces me into putting it to a narrative. So I really appreciate you guys letting me do this.
Okay, Bruce, thank you.